Happy Wednesday and welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Mark Moyer has some great events in the club room. Another event today, I think it's at 4 p.m. Eastern. Check out winagainacademy.com or reach out to me or Mark Moyer for more information. That's where I met our guest today, James Hagler. Welcome to the Wolff Den. How's everything going?
I think it's going great, man.
Yeah, glad to have you here. For those in the audience who don't know you, give us a quick introduction and then we'll get into everything.
Well, my name is James Hagler, son of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I have my own promotional company, Boxing Promotions, is what I do. I'm a boxing promoter, and we got some events coming up here real soon.
Okay, great. So you mentioned the son of the great boxer, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Boxing obviously was in your blood, your whole family, and we'll talk about the family. I guess start from the beginning. Tell us your first memories of boxing since you were in it right from the start.
Well, I was real young. Had to be probably about around 5 or 6 years old, man. I can remember, you know, just coming to the gym, just watching my dad work out, and you know, and it was just fascinating for me at the time because I've never seen anything like that until he brought me to the gym. And I've always known my dad to work. He was always working construction. I never knew what he did after he got off work.
So, and that's when you were watching him train. Did you get to go see him fight at a young age?
Oh yeah, I was there. Not at the younger age. No, no. Let me rephrase that. I wasn't. I didn't start going to his fights until I had to be about I don't know, probably 10, 12 years old.
Yeah, I was at Tortuga Music Festival over the weekend, and there's a band called Low Cash, and they come out on stage, and at the end they said, "Well, we don't really have a lot of time to bring our family around," but their whole family was on tour, and they brought their little girls out on stage. They must have been probably 5 or 6, the same age you are, and they were telling the story about how their kids don't really know what we do, and they don't understand. Like, hey, we come out here and we sing, and we have thousands and thousands of people who cheer us. And so it was a real touching moment to see these kids out there. At what point did you know that your dad was one of the best, in the business?
Um, hmm, I'm trying to think of what fight that was. Right after he fought Willie Monroe the second time. The first time I remember him coming home, he was all beat up, and my sister didn't recognize him. She wouldn't come to him, and he was like, "Hey," and she just ran. We wasn't used to seeing him like that, and he fought the kid. He fought the guy again, and I remember myself feeling like, man, I hope he can get that guy back, and that's what happened. He got the guy back. We knew we knew he was going to fight Willie Monroe. He called him the Worm, Willie Monroe, the Worm. He said he was going to get him. They drew posters of it and everything, and he just got right to work, and it happened. I remember the celebration when he came home. It was you know, when you revenge is sweet, man. That's all I can say, man.
Yeah, it's always good to get back and do what you couldn't do before. Bring up a good point when you talk about he came back, he lost, he was a little bit unrecognizable. Boxing, obviously, it's a brutal sport in many ways. What's it like as a son seeing your dad come home in that kind of condition? What's it like for you? You had did some boxing. We'll talk about that. And you also have a son who does some boxing. So you've kind of been on a lot of different sides of that. What's that feeling like when you could even win? You could win the title fight and come back all, man.
Well, let me explain. Let me tell you this much. My buddy Too Short, I'm friends with Too Short, the rapper, and I had met him in Atlanta. I met his family. They're real nice people, and we was out one night at a club, and I think we was at his cousin's car wash, and we were going to hang out later on that night. But everybody just comes to the car wash and hangs out. So Too Short and his cousin comes over to me. They say, "Hey, Hagler." I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Why you want to box?" So at the time I was boxing, he asked me. I was like, "What?" He was like, "Well, I kind of get it." And he was like, "Well, to each his own." I was like, "Well, why you feel that? Why you feeling some type of way?" He was like, "Because I don't understand. Even when you win, you get beat up."
Yeah.
And I didn't think of it like that because boxing was just a way of life. You know what I mean? You know, I'm thinking, okay, when you win, you knock them out, you got the decision, you win. I'm not looking at the fact that you still look like Rocky. You know what I mean? And it was just funny that he said that. And when that happened to my dad, when he lost that fight, I had my feelings was I wanted to get in there and beat the guy up. You know what I'm saying? Beat my daddy up. You know what I'm saying? I was mad. I felt some type of way. I was like, man, I didn't like that at all. I didn't like to see him like that. I know he was better than that, and I believed in him. So now the thing about my son is this. It was funny because my dad never wanted me to fight. And there were times where I thought he wanted me. There were times when I thought that he was going to support me. And then there was times that I knew he wasn't going to support me. So he would say, like, for example, when I broke my hand and he came back home from the Tommy Horns fight, I broke my hand out there fighting in the streets. And he was like, "Look at you. Now you can't even box because your hand is broke." So now I'm thinking, oh, wow, he's going to support me, but no, you know what I'm saying? Then he would say that he was going to give, let us compete, and it never happened. So he didn't want us to fight, and I didn't understand why. So I said, okay, you don't want us to fight, fine. I'm going to try to do it anyways. And he told me, he said, "Hey, if you do this, you're going to be on your own." So I asked him, "So why can't you work the corner?" He still never gave me any answers on anything. So I was just kind of bitter at that point. So then one time, we were talking, and he said, "See, I think we was watching Joe Frazier and Marvelous Frazier fight, and he was telling me about how Joe was putting his son in there with fighters that shouldn't be in there with." And he said, "See, this is the reason why I don't want to work your corner, because you might be winning a fight, or you might think you're winning a fight, or I might think that you're losing. And in your mind, you're winning because you have some type of strategy." And I throw the towel in. So I said, okay. I said, all right, that's all right, whatever. And then I watched him with my uncle Robbie Sims when he fought Dougie DeWitt for the title. When he fought Dougie DeWitt for the title, my dad was in the audience. He was front row seat, and it was like he was fighting too. I mean, he was drenched, all sweat, everything. And after that, I talked to him about it. He was like, "I can't go see Robbie fight again. That was just too much stress for me." So at that point, it's when I thought, I said, "Wow, okay, that's how he probably would feel." Imagine if he was at one of my fights, and he's rooting me on, and how he would feel. So I kind of felt it then, but it wasn't until my son had his first pro fight where I understood what he meant, because my son was in there. And I always said way before this, I'm not gonna be like that. My son, he's gonna go in there and get him. I ain't worried about that. He's just one of my homies, we going up there together. And I was so cocky about it. Then when the time came, my legs were shaking like I was fighting. My legs got me shaking, and I was like, man, I was really nervous. And he was in great shape too, so there was nothing to be nervous about. But I was just nervous and wrecked that day. And I didn't want to work the corner. I didn't, I had to, but I didn't want to. And it was hard walking up the steps because I couldn't stop my legs from shaking. So at that point, I was like, I get it why why it was difficult for him to watch one of his kids fight, or to be or to participate in it, or to support us, or to support me. And I understood it at that point. I still was kind of bitter about it, but I got the message.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's normal for any family member, father, mother, son, daughter, brother, watching anyone perform in sports. You're just so nervous for them. And then when you talk about sports like football, which are a little bit more contact, and boxing, which is all contact, you can, understand why people would feel the way they do. And this is a good thing, back to what you said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? Isn't that what, wasn't that
Mike Tyson said? Yeah.
Mike Tyson thing? So, it's and boxing's a strange thing. Again, you could come and look the exact same way, right? Face bashed in, and you could be a winner, and the pain is like you feel nothing, and you could lose, and it's like excruciating. So it's crazy. We got my friend Brent who joins. He's big boxing, probably the biggest boxing fan that I know, and he shares the same sentiments we all do. Obviously, we lost your dad earlier
Thank
this
you.
year.
Appreciate that, Brian.
Just a tough thing, obviously, as a family. You guys are a big family, right? You have 4 or 5 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, two brothers, 2 sisters.
And you talked about, I know you talked about, and we talked about this before. You mentioned a little bit about, your father and you having some disagreements about the boxing. Not wanting you to box, maybe not even wanting your son to box as well. How did that manifest throughout the family? Did you have different relationships with everyone within the family? I mean, are you the only one who was involved in boxing?
We all no, my 3 brothers. I mean, my 2 brothers. They was involved in boxing as well when we were kids, actually. And my brother Gentry, he tried boxing. He tried it. He said, it was funny. I remember because I was boxing at the time, and he said he was going to get into it, and he's working out at the gym, and he get to sparring. And he was like, after that, he was like, I don't want to take punches.
It's smart. I don't want to take punches either. I don't care if I got a
He did.
helmet on.
He said he was in there. He said he was doing good, and he got hit with a good one, and he was like, I'm good. Same thing with my little brother, Marvin Jr. Marvin Jr. would have been a hell of a fighter. I worked with him every day. All my brothers, we all worked together every day. We boxed every day in our household. I mean, when I say every day, I mean every day. You boxed when you came home from school, and you boxed before you went to bed. That was our regiment at home. So, and Marvin Jr. was coming along great. The fact that was that we did it so much over and over. Him and one of his best friend, Brett Curran, used to come over all the time, and we would box all the time. And then when he got to be 12 years old, both kids was like, I got a headache.
I have a twin brother. We wrestled more than we boxed, and it wasn't really for much good reason, but fought all the time.
You don't need a reason.
Just running around. So how good were you as a boxer, and what made you decide I'm going to step away from this? It's not really for me.
Well, I could have been a household name. I really believe that, and a lot of people a lot of trainers in Atlanta would say the same thing. The thing about me was I was so disturbed about not having my father support me that it bothered me. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, why didn't you just use that for fuel? I just couldn't. I was just devastated. I didn't understand why. You can't use anything for fuel if you don't know why. Now, it's different if my dad was coming to me and say, no, I don't think you could do it. That would be fuel. But not to tell you, hey, I don't want you doing it. If you're going to do it, then you're on your own. And literally be like that. Don't want to talk to you. Don't come see you fight. Don't have nothing to do with you with boxing. It was difficult because I went around a lot of other fighters like Camacho, Aaron Pryor, Mayweather, all those people, man, and that have kids, that Roy Jones and his father. I mean, to see all of them with their dads, and I'm here in this tournament, and nobody's there, and everybody has questions. It was real difficult for me. And plus, I had a lot of things going on at home. Dad lost a fight with Ray, and he was getting a divorce. So I had a lot of things going on, and I had one foot in the streets, one foot in the gym, and I just couldn't do both. Yeah. I was not focused at all. So I ended up just, I said I had enough. I was like, I'm just going to end up getting myself hurt. So it's better to just, leave it alone. And I remember having a conversation with my dad about it. And he was like, he felt bad and felt some type of way, and he was like, I should have just let you box. And he told me, he said, well, there's other things you can do in boxing besides fighting. And we went down this whole list, and he just turned me down on everything until I got the boxing promotions. He said, wait a minute, I think I could see you doing that. And it just took off from there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you boxing. There's a lot of things that you need to be all in and mentally there and focused. Otherwise, but especially boxing, you get in a ring and you're not there. Bad things can happen.
Not only that, it was the fact that my amateur career. See, you had to compete early, and I was in the gym at these times, but my dad wouldn't let me compete. I didn't compete until I was 21. And in boxing at that time, that's kind of old to be competing. And there was still a lot more that I needed to learn. I only had the basics, and I was determined to win. So I mean, that determined my skills. And plus I had to look up, my dad was who he was. So in my household, everybody, if you fight, you better win. So and we would program that way. All my brothers and sisters know how to fight. They all know how to box. Everyone put on gloves. Everybody got some type of special skills. If we really wanted to pursue it, we could, and we would be a household name, definitely.
Well, so now you're in boxing promotions. Let's talk about the sport of boxing and the state that it's in. I think there needs to be obviously some new up and comers. The heavyweight doesn't seem to be as many good fights. There's a few good fights out there. Obviously, I think Mayweather is gone. What's your role going to be in the world of boxing, and where do you think that it could be improved?
Well, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and we were just talking about boxing, and we think that we need some of these old guys back, man. We need a fighter like similar towards my dad and Ray and Tommy and all those guys, the 80s. We need some fighters like that. And I don't blame none of these fighters today. A lot of it has to do with the promoters. And we think that, and a lot of fans want these fights to happen now. These fighters, all these Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter, Demetrius Andres, Canelo, and Errol Spence, and Ryan Garcia, Desmond Hayman, all these guys, Lomachenko, all these guys, they have to stop fighting each other now. It's time. I get that some fights have to mature in order to make that revenue. I get that. I understand that 100%. But some of these fights can happen now, and they need to happen because everybody wants to see who's the best. And what if it? Okay, I know you want the money, and a lot of these promoters, got, they got kind of, I want to say, lazy on the way they promote as far as to get the money for these guys. And I that's something that I want to promote like they used to do in the day. Remember, we didn't have social media back in the day. You seen fighters on TV. You seen fighters in commercials. You seen fighters getting out more with the people and being a people's champion and promoting themselves.
Yeah, from my point of view, it seems like they're always just trying to figure out, there's a trilogy of fights and it's already known that we're going to fight. And it's almost like we don't even need to see that. Let's see some other people fighting, which I think would be better fights for the sport rather than just seeing the same people fight. It's not like back in the day, like you said, with rematches that, a rematch was probably warranted. Now it's like, all right, this is big money. We know we can get big money on the pay-per-view. So we're going to put this fight together, even though it might not be what.
Right. Well, that's the point exactly. That's why you have to have some of these champions fight against each other because it's time for that. If people want to see that, like I thought it was great that Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford finally did the thing. Now we want to see Earl Spence and Crawford. Now we want to see these fights, these big fights. We want to see Demetrius Andres, Canelo. These guys are not fighting each other for whatever reasons. They're saying the money ain't there, the money ain't right. That's crazy. I don't believe that at all because if Mayweather can get $100 million to fight, he found a way to get that money to make that fight with Pacquiao. They found that way to get that money. They can find a way to get this money for these guys. So I believe that I just believe that they need to fight. And the answer to your question, I just want to. I'm looking for that fighter that can come out, kick butt, be humble, and not scared to fight anybody. Sometimes let's put the money aside a little bit and let's fight for title and pride like they used to do back in the day.
Yeah, because it's okay to lose. You don't have to be.
Not nowadays. It ain't. Not nowadays.
Well, I think it's. I mean, you could lose if you win enough. You could still lose, and you'll get another opportunity.
Well, of course. Well, that's what I mean because Mayweather set the tone for that. If you lose a fight, you got to get back at the end of the line, and that might be 10 fights. You know what I'm saying? Depending on how you lost. That's how it go. You in line for a title fight, and you lose that fight. You're gonna it's gonna set you back probably 4 fights, 3 fights, just depending on who you fight to get back in line. So that makes it real difficult, and you have to. It makes it difficult, but it makes fighters be more selective of who they want to fight and who they want to put their title on the line with, because this is for them. It's got to be, it's got to be high, low. It's got to be high risk, low reward. It's a low. I messed that up. It's got to be high. It's got to be low. I mean, what is it?
Low risk, high reward.
Yeah, it's for them. It's got to be like that. For them to take the fight.
Yeah, this Brent says still Teo Lopez. He's ruined his career. Signed with Trilly. The other thing that's got with boxing is all the celebrity boxing and Tyson coming in fighting Jones, and how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's great for the older guys because a lot of people want to see it's entertainment. So, a lot of people, people like entertainment. It's like, it's like wrestling, you know what I mean? So I think that it just shows to me what it does. It should be schooling some of these pro fighters. I know some of the pro fighters don't like it because these guys are getting more money. The reason why they're getting more money is because they got the following. They're out there promoting themselves every day. They're getting people to recognize and see who they are. You win a fight, you go home, and we don't see you until or hear from you until the next time you go and fight, and that might be a year or 2 from now. So you wonder why they're getting the more money. They out there doing it. I don't see you on TV. I don't see you on commercials. I don't see you doing nothing. You just take your money, you go home, you're at the club, and that's that. If you're gonna be smart about it, at least go to a club with a famous rapper. Yeah. That way you get some publicity, and then people start seeing you more, and then people start recognizing, and then you sell your tickets, and then you can come back to the table and say, "I want 100 million." That's how these kids are doing it.
And money obviously is always a thing. That's why people work. They fight. They're not getting in the ring to not get paid. But sometimes in entertainment, in the sports world, when they collide and money becomes too much of the thing, where people are going to take the money, they'll go fight, prance around. They know they're not going to. It's not going to be kind of like what Mayweather does, a little bit what McGregor did when him coming.
Yeah, but you got to understand though, he's retired, so if he can, I get what he's doing. I would do the same thing. You know how fighters is; they don't want to leave the sport. They don't want to leave the sport. So if you can be retired and have fun and do some sparring and make a couple of million, hey, and you're retired, why not? Why not? People are paying for it. It's entertainment, and they want to see it.
Yep. As long as people keep paying for this, and the pay-per-view numbers are high, they're going to keep putting together the same stuff. So, what are you working on? You said you have some events. What are you working on? What boxers do you think are the next up-and-comers? And what should we look forward to?
Well, it's right now it's kind of difficult to talk about it because I want to make sure that everything's legit, and it's we're working on things. There's a lot of negotiations going on. There's a lot of talk and talking with sponsors. You got to get the right sponsors, and then once you get that down, then you can start moving on to your fighters. I got a lot of fighters right now that get in contact with me, ask me, I want to fight for your logo. I mean, for your company. I want to fight for you. Are you putting on any shows? And right now, we're just trying to get it kicked off. I got a venue in Las Vegas I got 2 casinos out there that gave me the venue. And right now, I'm just working on getting my promoter's license out there, which everybody knows in Vegas is a difficult task. So once that comes to a head, then we can start planning. I'm looking to do something late summer 22.
You said summer of 22?
Yes.
Okay, great. And yesterday we had Jason Wilson on.
Okay.
You are a co-host of his Living on Purpose podcast.
Oh yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, what made you want to do that, and what do you look forward to doing with it?
Well, okay. Well, a friend of mine was telling me, because his name is Xavier Tolliver. Xavier Tolliver's a good kid. He's a boxer. I met him when I was fighting in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a little kid at the time. Him and Ebo Eldo had some of the greatest amateur fights in the world. If you know about boxing in the state of Georgia, you know these 2 names. So, we've been friends ever since. And he was just telling me if things didn't work out, he was like, you could get a podcast show and just talk about boxing. And I was like, yeah, all right, but I'm determined to make it. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll keep that in the back of my head. And then all of a sudden, I ran into Jason. Months later, I ran into Jason, and me and Jason got to talking. He was asking me, he's like, well, would you like to do a podcast show with me? And I was like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I'll do that. And we talk about mental health and all kinds of things. And I thought it was great for what I'm trying to do, to get publicity, to get followers. We have a lot of exciting guests on our show, and I just thought it was great to do. And I like it. I think it's hot.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the Wolff Den, where this is episode 155, and we're going strong. And it's just there's so many interesting people out
Definitely.
there that have great stories that no one's ever heard of. Even the people who I always say the people who are very popular, who've got a huge following. We have people in our network who no one's ever heard of them. And
Right.
it's good to get to a new audience. And then also, I think what we like to do here on the Wolff Den, and I know you guys try and do that on the Living on Purpose, just based on the name, is get past the surface with people, not just to have the conversation. Like if I went on a talk show and I saw someone saying the same story that they go around telling everyone, we want to start to talk about the conversations that maybe makes them a little uncomfortable, something that they're not necessarily always talking about, and really make the guest think and maybe the audience think, and something a little bit different. That's what we try and do.
Well, I like that because I get that a lot just by being Mama Hagler's son. I get questions like that all throughout my life, and it's great. I don't mind it at all. And some things I know what to talk about. I know what I can talk about, and I know what I want to talk about. So to me, it's great. We try to do that on our cast as well. It's just about knowing your guests and doing your homework on your guests. We don't try to force anything or make them uncomfortable. But some questions you can be uncomfortable, and we would like for you to answer that question to your best of your ability. You don't have to spill your beans, but you can dance around it.
No, I just think we don't want to make anyone uncomfortable on purpose, but I think that in general, we need to start having tough conversations that people don't want to have, whether that's mental health, whether that's equality. It's got we got the trials going on right now. It's just there's a lot going on that divides us, and I think that we just have to have that conversation from the middle. And we can have a conversation about really anything. There's not much that we shouldn't be able to talk about. There's things that are taboo, even if it's sex or equality and stuff like that. So that's good. I think I asked Jason this. I can't remember. Who would you love to have as a guest on the show, or is there anyone that we could look forward that you already have conversations and booked for?
I would love to have Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
Because I got a lot of people just telling me about Joe Rogan. Everybody's coming to me. They say, "Well, Joe Rogan really loves your dad. He wants to get your dad on the show, and you should call him and you should talk to Joe and just all this this was going on before my dad passed. All it's still up to this day, and I'm like, okay. So I reached out to him. I sent him a email. I don't know if he got it yet, but I reached out to him. So hopefully we can do that, man. And they kept telling me, yeah, they kept telling me, oh, he's from Boston. It should be a no-brainer and this and that. I said, okay, I'll try it. I finally said, okay, I will try it, because other than that, I was like, Joe Rogan, he want to speak to me. You know what I'm saying? He want to speak to Dad. So I was.
No, you never know.
Right, but then I was going to ask my dad about it. I was going to call my dad and ask him what he'd do it, because he probably wouldn't, because my dad is, I don't know. So he's funny. Sometimes you catch him at the right moment, he'll do it. But if I was going to ask him, would you do it with me? Let's go on, let's do a show. And I just, like I said, we never got the chance to patch our differences up, or to get to the point where we was able to do that. But I was definitely going to ask him about it.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, interesting guy, very funny guy. First of all, he started out as a comedian. He's got some real.
I know. Comedian to a fighter. I can't wait to ask him about, because when I found out about Joe and I started doing my homework about him, I was like, wow, he's fighting too. He's a MMA fighter, but damn, he was a comedian. So how I want to know, how did that work out? You cracking jokes on people, so obviously you're going to be fighting somebody.
Yeah, he's done very well for himself, obviously, with the events and the podcast. Got a ton of followers. A different type of person. I don't really agree with a lot of the stuff that he agrees with, but I think I'd love to have him on the Wolff Den someday. Who knows? That would be a tough. That's a tough get, but yeah. The good thing is you asked him, you reached out to him. That's what we do here. We don't just hope that someone's going to be like, oh, this person wants to come on.
Nah.
You got to go out and do it. That's really what you got to do with everything in life. Is, I don't want to say you can't get what you don't ask for, because sometimes it just does happen. But you always got to go after what you want and let people say no, or keep
right. Like my mom's told me, closed mouth don't get fed.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope you do get him on the show, and we're looking forward to some of the other people on. I told Jason I'm happy to come on and talk about whatever it is you guys.
Definitely. I was just about to ask you too.
Yeah, Brent wants to know if you could put together any fight today. Which two boxers would you like to see fight each other? And he says Spence Crawford or Lopez Davis.
Probably me. It would be both, but I would like to see, if I could put a fight together. There's two fights that I want to see. I'd want to see Spencer Crawford and Demetrius Andre and Canelo. If I could put any fight together, it probably would be Demetrius Andres and Canelo.
And why aren't these things happening? It's just money.
Well, they don't want to fight Demetrius because he's too elusive. He's hard to hit, and they come up with all these excuses, and that's why I don't understand these fighters today. Why? Yeah, come on, man, just fight. Like Mike Tyson said, kids fight. Come on, just fight. Who cares? This is what it's about. You scared to fight this guy because he can move. You scared to fight this guy because he's hard to hit. It's supposed to be the other way around. No, I could beat this guy. You're supposed to be saying that, not giving all these excuses of why you don't want to fight the guy. The guy, I mean, I get it that, okay, Demetrius he's not too good at selling tickets, but you can get what you want. If you be the A fighter, he be the B fighter, whatever.
Yeah.
You're still gonna get paid. You can get the money you want. Okay, if I'm gonna fight Demetrius Andres, it's low reward, high risk, then okay, I want this money. And you'll get it. Okay. Put the fight together. Get a man a chance. This kid Demetrius came up with Danny Garcia, Earl Spence. He's seen all these guys in the amateur. And look, he's not doing, and he can't get a fight with nobody. Nobody. Nobody wants to fight the kid.
Yeah, it's well, and I'm not as big a boxing fan. I'm not as in tune with it, but it feels like the lower weights were the ones who were really getting after each other.
Yeah,
in the ring. and fighting. It's where I know Canelo had it. Who did he fight? That it was just they were just bashing.
Cable. I think it's the Cable.
Yeah, they were just bashing on each other for 8 rounds, and it was exciting. And I think that's kind of what boxing needs is to come people to fight, to not walk around and people say, all right, I can just kind of hold my own, dance around, hug each other for 8 or 10 rounds. I'll get my money, and I'll probably get a decision, and we move on without taking the risks, like you say. I don't know. When you start looking at promoting boxing, do you want to focus on a specific weight class?
Not really. Not really. Just what's really available at the time. You get a lot of middleweights, and I put the little guys on too. The little guys are exciting. They're gonna fight. They're gonna go at it. They're gonna throw 100 punches around. So it's just about how you put your show together.
So what do you think about the MMA fighting and versus boxing when they fight together or just on its own? What do you think? Because they've done UFC, MMA has done a really good job. I think probably even can even argue they've done a better job of promoting than boxing has in the last 3 to 4 years.
Well, no doubt. It's just the reason is because boxing has a lot of black eyes, man. A lot of bad decisions and stuff like that. So MMA, that it's still new, and as far as MMA versus boxing, I love to see that. I just love this. I support anything with fighting. You fighting, I like it. I like the fact that somebody thinks that they can beat the next person, or I could beat that MMA guy, or I could beat that boxer. The MMA guy says I could beat him. I'll beat him at his own sport. I love that. I love that excitement and what it brings, man. It's just like playground, and you got to think about it. If you're in high school, oh yeah, this kid, he does karate. Oh yeah, well I'm over here doing boxing. You can't beat him. Oh yes, I can. And next thing you know, somebody stirs the pot, and these two kids are fighting, and everybody wants to see who wins, and it's just exhilarating.
Yeah, it's can boxing get back to where it was, and get the eyes and the money
Eventually, it's all a cycle. What goes around comes around. It comes back around. It just depends on that era, and what the amateurs, what fighters are coming out of the amateurs. Our Olympic team ain't nothing no more. We used to have the best Olympic team, the best Olympic boxing team. Now it's like, who's winning gold medals now? Nobody. And these guys came from the amateurs to the pro. Yeah, Holyfield, Roy Jones, Mayweather. These what made good fighters. And now you got guys, not to take anything away from Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury couldn't beat the Riddick Bowes or the Lennox Lewises or Holyfield. If he came up in that era, there's no way.
So is it that, sort of like as you're young, Golden Globes, Olympics, then comes the next real champion. Have they skipped that? Is that part of the problem?
I think so. I think it could be because you can become. It's just depending on. It's a discipline that you have and the goal. The goal at the end of the day, as an amateur fighter, is to be world champion. But these are the channels that you go through. So let's say you don't make the Olympics. Okay, you don't make the Olympics. Okay, and right now sometimes the Olympics can be bad news for a fighter. That's one of the reasons why my dad didn't go to the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? So you skip that and you go right into pro and you become somebody. And it's just your discipline throughout your amateur career what makes you succeed as a pro.
Yeah. A question from Brent. He wanted to know who do you think your dad considered his greatest rival? Did he ever talk about that? Who your dad's greatest rival was?
I think
Duran, Leonard.
The greatest rival would have to be. It's not even on here, but I'm going to say it. It's back in the early days. Would be Darnell Wigfall. Okay. And Darnell Wigfall, if you know the story, was a guy that my dad fought in the streets. and the guy ended up beating up my dad real bad. But the guy was a boxer at the time. My dad wasn't into boxing at the time. He liked it boxing. He knew of boxing because his idol was Floyd Patterson. So, but when he moved to Brockton, he was hanging out, and Darnell bullied him and beat him up, and excuse me, bullied him, beat him up, put him in a coma. He was in the hospital for a while, and then when he got out of the hospital, he was like, I want to, find out that Darnell was boxing. And then he was like, I want to fight that guy. I want to beat him at his own sport. So the gym was right across the street. Pettinelli Gyms was actually right across the street from on next street over, actually from Darnell's gym. So my dad goes to the Pettinelli gym, starts to learn how to fight, and then once he turned pro, he fought Darnell Whitfall not once but twice and knocked him out. That was his biggest rivalry. So when he came to fight Hearns, it was funny because I asked him, I said, Dad, did Tommy Hearns remind you of Darnell Whitfall? He said, you know what? Yeah, but every fighter reminded me of him. He said all the fighters reminded him of that guy, man. And that was one of his biggest motivations that got him into boxing. And the rest is history.
Yeah. I think I want to talk about movies. I always love talking about movies. I think the Rocky series, and it can go extend to Rocky IV and Rocky Balboa and all of the offshoot movies. I think it's one of the greatest franchises in movie history. What are some other boxing movies that you've watched that you like?
I like the Rockies. We all love the Rockies. Nothing's touching Rocky. You know what I'm saying? But my dad liked it, the movie Main Event.
Main Event.
Yeah, he liked that movie with Barbra Streisand. That was one of his favorite boxing movies that he liked. I remember him watching that movie, and he got a kick out of that one. So I mean, for me, anything with boxing, I'm liking it. You know what I mean? So that's how much I just love the sport of boxing. Whether it's good or bad.
I got two under the radar boxing movies that are my favorites. One is called The Gladiator, which is Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
And the other one is The Great White Hype.
Yeah.
Damon Wayans. That's a pretty funny movie.
And then the one that I do like is the one about James Toney and his trainer, the female. What's her name? The actress.
Something with an H, right? Hilary Swank.
I think that's her. Yeah.
You're talking about the Clint Eastwood one?
No, not the baby one. It was Omar. What's his name? The actor that played the fighter's name is Omar. Played in the movie Juice.
Oh, Omar Epps?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I know that one. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, what's her name, man? She's gonna kill me. She is
called Against the Ropes.
I'm gonna say she's gonna kill me. Huh?
Meg Ryan.
But it was after the movie was Meg Ryan played She's Gonna Kill Me for this one. Oh my God. I know I'm gonna hear it. I can't remember her name, man. Oh man, I can't remember her name. I'm trying to see. I got to pull her name up and get this right. She is going to kill me.
You look at that. I want to ask, if you weren't going to be in the world of boxing, do you have an idea of what you would have done?
No, because that's all I've ever wanted to do. So that was another thing that I was kind of upset with Dad, because he didn't give me he didn't give me an opportunity to see if this is something that I could do. And if it wasn't something that I could do, then I would have just left boxing alone. I still would have been a fan of boxing, but I wouldn't have tried to pursue anything of it. So I don't know. I wouldn't know. I don't know. I couldn't answer that question.
I lost my dad in 2005. Every year I post something about, one of the things for me, he went quickly, pancreatic cancer, but one of the things for me was that I was so close with my dad and really, I didn't have any regrets or anything like that. And I always say, if you got a chance to kind of apologize or make something better, if there's a rift in whether it's family or friends or anything, that you should always go ahead and try your best to do it. And the person on the other side doesn't always want to, but and
Right.
I've had some of those situations, but at least I felt better about it where I reached out and kind of said how I felt. And is that obviously something that you wish could have happened with you and your dad towards the end?
Of course, that was something that I wanted to do because with him and I, we always butted heads, but there was never a time where we couldn't talk and straighten it out. There was never a time where that would ever happen. Regardless of there were times where we couldn't talk to each other verbally. We wrote each other letters, and I thought it was silly at first until a friend of mine told me. He was like, "Wait a minute." He said, "He wrote you a letter?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that took time to sit down and get his thoughts together. That means he cares."
And you get to keep it. I have letters and stuff that I
Right.
keep from people in the past.
Right. And he said, "So that's good." And I said, "Well," I said, "Okay." So I wrote him back, and actually we're talking, and it's good because you can't argue. You got to read it. It's nothing you can't say anything. You can write me back, but there's no arguing. And you're gonna hear my thoughts, and I'm gonna hear your thoughts. So it was a good thing, and yeah, I definitely would have liked to do that because I always was the bigger man, in all our disagreements. I always came and talked to him about it. I always made that first move, and this time I was like, I'm not doing that. He's gonna have to do it. And once I set that in my mind, I kind of have a feeling that this is gonna go to the end.
Yeah.
And I had to make my peace with God, just in case if it did, because I probably would have been a wreck if I did it. So I made my peace with God, and then coming towards this last year, I was like, man, we can't do it. We can't keep going. Like, so you gotta fix this, because what if he goes the next day and then you don't get a chance to? And that was always in my head. And I would tell my grandma the same thing. I was like, we still got enough time, to fix things. This ain't over yet. We should try to fix it. So I was trying to promote. I was trying to get the show at the Boxing Hall of Fame in Kennesaw. They're doing a trilogy, and I wanted to promote that fight. And it's still up in the air. Who knows? I might get lucky and I might be able to do it. And the goal was to do that because I knew my dad was going to come. I know he was going to be there because he comes every year. So I said, okay, if I can do that and then have him there, and I'll break the ice there. We'll talk there because I know we're going to talk. We're not going to not say anything to each other if we're in each other's presence. So I said, we'll make up then. And then eventually we ran out of time, and I didn't get a chance to talk with them. And I feel like, if anybody's out there and you got issues with a family member, squash it. You never know when God's going to take them home, and you don't want that feeling of not being able to squash it with them. I just did a show the other day on Thriving Woman Network, and it was all about healing. I had to do that. Lucky I prayed on it way before when we got into this, so it was easy to handle. And I forgave him for everything, and I've been forgave him. I just wanted to. My thing was just, hey, we don't got time for all that right now. Let's just live and spend time with each other and appreciate the time that we do have on Earth, because once time is spent, that's it. You ain't getting that back.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't know, I'm just saying based on what I'm hearing, that I think knowing the way he felt about you and how he didn't want you to get involved shows a lot about what you meant to him and how he cared about you.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
That makes it probably gives you a good feeling about that. I tried to talk to a couple of boxing hall. Is there an actual official boxing hall of fame? Because I feel like there's a couple of them. I know you mentioned there's an event next April with some big names getting honored. But is there one boxing hall of fame that's out there?
Well, there's a couple of them. It's funny because my dad didn't really like all the new ones that was popping up. And I asked him, I said, well, he would tell me, oh yeah, New Jersey want me to come down there, Indiana want me to come to theirs, and I was like, well, you gonna go? And he was like, nope, I only believe in one boxing Hall of Fame, and that's Canastota, New York, and they got the museum. So I said, okay. So he gets inducted to Vegas. And and I talked to him. I called him. I talked to him. I said, "You going?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to that one." I said, "Well, Dad, I thought you didn't like all these other ones that's popping up, and I thought you weren't going to any of them." He was like, "Nah, Vegas." He said, "When you make Vegas, you have a ride." He said, "I got to go to that one. I'm going," and
So
he was
Vegas is
real
it.
excited about going to that one.
I mean, it seems like that's part of the boxing problem is there's no unified one. It's not like, hey, this is the NFL, this is
Right.
UFC. It's like there's so many different fragments, all these different Hall of Fames, all these different promoters. We're all trying to get theirs for their people instead of everyone kind of working together under one umbrella. It kind of feels like that might be what boxing is lacking.
Well, it is, and that's a whole new subject to get involved in, and he's getting inducted to California, which I think is great. I think is great. The family, we think is great that all these things
Why
that
not?
he's getting inducted to. So they're having him. Why not be a part of?
But
You
what
know,
takes so long? I mean, he's been out of the he hasn't fought in so many years. That's what I don't understand about the Hall of Fame in general in all sports. Like your career is your career. It doesn't get any better after maybe comparatively, but it's still you're talking about different eras. So even in the talking about football and basketball and baseball, it's like what 10 years out, you're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. I mean, there's no doubt that your dad was a Hall of Famer, so he's not
right?
one of those people in question. But the Hall of Fame to me, it just seems a little weird the way they handle it.
It,
All of
it
them,
does.
not
It does too because I don't understand. Like they want to wait 5 years after you retire. I really don't get that. You know, uh, especially in New York. In New York, Canastota, you got to be 5 years. You have to be retired for 5 years in order to get inducted. And I'm like, well, once the guy's retired, and I feel like once he retired for 1 year, okay, he's retired. Why we have to wait 5 years to get him in the
boxing, I guess. But in college basketball, you can get inducted to the Hall of Fame as you're still an active coach. And then you look at this Kobe Bryant situation. I mean, obviously that's a tragedy, and no one ever
yeah.
expected it. But there's a guy who didn't get to get in the Hall of Fame as he was alive. So it's I think that rule probably needs to change in some sort. Maybe for some people, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. They'll figure that out. I wanted to go back because we were talking about you and your dad
Right.
and that relationship. Does that dictate kind of how you view your relationship with your son, who is a boxer, and how has that affected the way you treat your relationship with your son?
Um, with my son, I tried to do what dad didn't do. That's what I do. If he wanted to box, he was a football player. You know what I'm saying? He had a scholarship to Dean College in Massachusetts. He went out there, played football. I think he got a championship with them. And then he didn't like Massachusetts. So we asked him, why did you come here? He's like, well, I want to know where you guys are from. And I wanted to see what it was like to live out there in Massachusetts. Because he was raised and born in down south. Excuse me. So he gets there, and now he wants to go back home. So he goes to road tie, and he becomes a redshirt sophomore. And all of a sudden, he wants to become a fighter. So I didn't know nothing about it. My dad knew, and my grandmother knew before I knew.
Okay.
So it was kind of mixed feelings with my dad, with him boxing. And I just told him, I was like, well, if you're going to do this, then I'm going to be there to support you. I'm going to do something that dad didn't do with me. I'm going to give you that opportunity, that chance to see if this is what you really want to do. There's no harm in the trying. At least you fix that void within yourself that, hey, I gave it a shot. Okay, it didn't work out. Oh, well, move on to the next. Not wondering what happened, what if, you know?
Yeah. Well, we're going to let you out of here on the same question we let everyone go on in the Wolff
Okay.
Den. You get one person that you could spend a day with. It could be anyone in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who are you choosing, and what would you guys do? We put a list. We're putting a list together. We've done outreach. We're going to try and make it happen for as many of our guests as we can have. As I said yesterday, I said we've had some pretty wild answers that we probably can't make happen, like Vladimir Putin, but we have some very attainable answers. Let me know who would you pick if you could spend the day with anyone in the world.
It would be Mike Tyson.
Tyson?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the reason is because my dad and I, when Mike Tyson was going through all that turmoil with Robin Givens and everything, Mike Tyson likes pigeons, and we had pigeons too. Yeah. We had show birds and we had racing birds. So I know all about that pigeon area because my dad was the same way. He loved his birds. So my dad said, and we got the coop all built up in Hanover and everything, and we got all these birds, and we're in the coop talking, and he said, "You know what I'm gonna do?" And I said, "What?" He said, "We're gonna invite Mike Tyson up to the house, and we're just gonna talk pigeon. We ain't gonna talk about boxing. We ain't gonna talk about nothing. We just gonna talk pigeons because Mike likes birds too." I said, "Yeah, I know that. I see him on TV with his birds." He said, "We'll get him up here, and I'll work on it." So, a couple months went by. So I asked Dad. I said, "Hey, did you do you get in touch with Mike?" And he said, "Yeah, but it's hard to get him right now. He's just going through too much, and he needs that father figure with him. I think he really needs a father figure." And Don King is not the one for him. But right now, we can't get in touch with him. He's just not responding. He just don't want to do it. And I was bummed out by that. You know what I'm saying? So when I see Mike Tyson on I think it was ESPN, when he had that show with his birds and stuff, I was like, man, I can't wait to run into him.
I gotta watch the rest of that show. We actually did a ticket for the Tyson Jones fight.
Okay. Oh, that was nice. I like that.
Came out pretty cool.
Yeah.
I still gotta watch the end of the Tyson. I know he had that. It was a documentary. I think I watched a little bit of it.
I definitely watched it. And I was so bummed out. I said, I can't wait to run into him. Because that's one thing we're going to talk about. We'll talk about his birds because he got a lot of racing birds, but we had a lot of show birds. And I remember one time my dad, I want to tell you this one story about these birds. We went to New Jersey, drove all the way down to New Jersey in the Cadillac. My dad, my mom's, all of us. And this guy gave my dad like 150 birds. So I said, "Dad, how are we going to get these birds back?" "Oh, we're going to put them in the car." I said, "The car, where they gonna get? Where they gonna go?" He said, "They're gonna sit in the back with you guys." So we got this big cage, and we're all in the back seat with all these birds, man, driving back to Boston.
That's gonna the noise in that car has got to be.
Yeah, I know. Tell me, but it was the most uncomfortable ride in the world. I was looking at him like, "What are you crazy, man?"
Well, we're gonna put Mike Tyson's on the list. We're gonna try and make it happen. We're going to see you at the Win Again event this afternoon.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll definitely be there.
Check out Win Again Academy. I think it's today at 3:30, 3:45. Conversation on mental health. Reach out to me or James or Mark or Jason Wilson for more information on how you can get to attend the event. Looking forward to hearing when you have some stuff to announce. We'll definitely help you promote that when you have some stuff to announce in Vegas coming up. Check out, connect with James on Instagram and Twitter. You're also on LinkedIn. Check out the Living on Purpose podcast, wherever podcasts you find podcasts. We have the Apple link here, and looking forward to seeing what's next in the chapter of Hagler Promotions. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to find the James Tony's promoter or manager's name because I know she's going to kill me.
Well, we can put it. We'll put it in the comments afterwards so they can know or reach out.
Yeah, definitely. Because I gotta get her right. She's gonna kill me.
All right. Have a great day.
All
great night. Enjoy it. We'll see everyone tomorrow for another episode, and come join us for the Win Again Academy event. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.